Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello and welcome. I am Nancy Melito, as I'm sure most of you know already, your rogue member up here. My pronouns are she and her. As we begin our service, I invite you to silence your phone, close other windows on your computer, take a deep breath, and center yourself for worship. We open in welcome to the ancestral people of this land, acknowledging that our church, like all of Burke, rests on the unceded territory of the Manahoic Indian tribe of the Great Sioux Nation. We seek healing and realization of justice with the people of this land who live on in their descendants, the present-day members of the Monacan Indian Nation, the Patawomac Indian tribe of Virginia, and the Piscataway Indian Nation. We honor the ancestors as we move toward healing so that all together shall one day know full justice. Welcome to Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. I am still Nancy Melito. My pronouns are still she, her, and I'm happy to be your worship associate today. I hope you got a name tag or have put your name on your Zoom name tag. If you need help with that, let us know in the chat. If you are not new to Accotink, look around. Do you see people you haven't met or haven't spoken to in a while? These people like you and want to meet you and renew these friendships. And if you have not met them before, they want to meet you. Help us live up to our mission to be a welcoming and inclusive spiritual home for everybody by reaching out and making a connection. By visiting this congregation, newcomers are in a transition moment, and people in transitions are more open to new friendships. That means your new best friend might be here this morning, and this is your chance to get to them before somebody else does. Whether you're a longtime member or a newcomer or something in between, we encourage you to stay for our social hour online and in person immediately after this service. We're so delighted that you decided to join us today. Welcome. So, as we light our chalice, please join in reciting these words from our mission statement. Together we care in community. Together we grow in spirit. Together we act for justice. And our minister, Reverend William Levewood, affectionately known as Rev Lev, is on study leave for much of August. So we begin our month of exploring the theme of covenant with a special guest preacher. May I introduce Reverend Christin Green. She is the Assistant Minister for Congregational Life at UU Congregation of Fairfax. Please let us all make her feel welcome today.
Good morning, friends. Good morning. It is an honor and a pleasure to be with you this morning. And as we get centered into our time of worship today, I offer an excerpt of the introduction of a book called Fierce Love by Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis. Even before COVID showed up in our global family, we were living in what I call hot mess times. In our current context, race and ethnicity, caste and color, gender and sexuality, socioeconomic status and education, religion and political party have all become reasons to divide and be conquered by fear and rancor. For some time, a perfect storm has been brewing, one that polarizes, amplifying the power of divergent ideologies and reducing our differences to shallow and bigoted categories in which we are vehemently against them. Put simply, we are in a perilous time, and the answer to the question, who are we to be, will have implications for generations to come. We have a choice to make. We can answer this question with diminished imagination, by closing ranks with our tribe and hiding from our human responsibility to heal the world, or we can answer the question of who we are to be in another way. We can answer in the spirit of Ubuntu, the concept comes from a Zulu phrase, which literally means that a person is a person through other people. Another translation is, I am who I am because we are who we are. By channeling the ancient wisdom of Ubuntu, we can engineer a badly needed love revolution to rise up from the ashes of our current reality. I'm not referring to the sentimental love of romantic comedies, greeting cards, and pop music. That kind of love does not serve this purpose. No, I am calling for a demanding, heart-transforming, fierce love. Fierce love breaks through tribalism to help humans realize an inextricable and irrevocable connection and understand that in liberation, livelihood and thriving of people and planet are tied up together. In this moment, in this urgency of now, we simply must ask questions of identity as we consider the surviving and the thriving of all peoples. We must allow the stories of others, the vulnerable, the poor, the stranger, the one least like us, to change our stories, to impact our story. The empathy that grows from listening to others, from connecting with our neighbors, and from loving our neighbors as we love ourselves can define the courses of action we take. How we vote, how we live, where we shop, how we raise our children, how we care for the planet, all of those choices, when made with Ubuntu, can save humanity. Come, let us worship together this day. This morning's story for all ages is called I Am Enough by Grace Byers, illustrated by Keturah A. Bobo. Like the sun, I'm here to shine. Like the voice, I'm here to sing. Like the bird, I'm here to fly and soar high over everything. Like the trees, I'm here to grow. Like the mountains, here to stand. Like time, I'm here to be and be everything I can. Like the champ, I'm here to fight. Like the heart, I'm here to love. Like a ladder, here to climb, and like the air, to rise above. Like the wind, I'm here to push. Like a rope, I'm here to pull. Like the rain, I'm here to pour and drip and fall until I'm full. Like the moon, I'm here to dream. Like the student, here to learn. Like the water, here to swell. Like the fire, here to burn. Like the winner, I'm here to win, and if I don't, get up again. I know that I may sometimes cry, but even then, I'm here to try. I'm not meant to be like you, and you're not meant to be like me. Sometimes we will get along, and sometimes we will disagree. I know that we don't look the same. Our skin, our eyes, our hair, our frame. But that does not dictate our worth. We both have places here on earth. And in the end, we are right here to live a life of love, not fear. To help each other when it's tough. To say together, I am enough. I can't stop being in the present, noticing how the past tells me what I should care about and the future tells me what I should fear. And the past tells me what we forgot, and the future tells me what we must dream. But here,
I breathe in, noticing the gift I too often take for granted, not knowing how many breaths I have left. I want to spend them being love.
I have done so much, so many tasks, but what has mattered most has been the listening to the thirsting dirt, to the spiraling wind in the wake of murmuration, to the drumbeat of ant feet moving abundance with a million hands, the sacred erotic of pollination, the orgasmic opening of mushrooms, pulling the yes for miles underground, the innocent violence of predators feeding their children, the way wild wastes nothing, the way the cedar gives me permission to pray.
I thought someone else had all the instructions, and I, stumbling and following, praying to become worthy, must admit I have been grieving and grieving. All I don't know and don't trust, and grieving so deeply, a world that is still breathing, anticipating failure in spite of my visions.
But when I listen, the universe is reminding me I cannot be taken from her. I am never untethered from her roots, never beyond the whole, and nothing is lost. It is lived, and we are not here to win, but to experience love. And those who do not know love are missing in spite of all other accumulation.
And when I listen, the universe is teaching me that control is impossible, and the season will change, and enough is a feeling that cannot be measured, and the small circle is the deepest, and I cannot teach anyone what I have not practiced, and I cannot change anyone but myself. And I will never feel free in a position of demand. And I am already free. And we all are. And when we realize it, we cannot be contained.
And we are never I, even when we are lonely, even when we distinctly suffer, even when we distinctly succeed. We are of lineage, of collective, of era, of farmers' hands and strangers' prayers, of singers with their heads thrown back. We are always dancing with our ghosts and praying for our great-great-grandchildren. We are always the harvest.
And the future is being decided. The future is being practiced. The future is being planted in this breath, and this breath, and this breath.
So I breathe in, noticing the gift I too often take for granted. Not knowing how many breaths I have left, I want to spend them being love. Thank you so much, Nancy, for joining me in that reading. And thank you all for the invitation to be here this morning. As a minister, I'm always searching for voices and languages of love. It is a message I bring to congregations over and over because it cannot be preached too much, I don't think. It is the only message, perhaps. But when thinking about languages of love, that particular phrase, I thought about the familiar 5 love languages. Written over 30 years ago by Gary Chapman, he identified words of affirmation, quality time, touch, gifts, and acts of service. Now, those were fitting for the time and perhaps useful for an extended period of time, but I want to expand on these. I want to see if they could make a greater impact, if there are more voices and languages of love that could address all sorts of relationships, not just romantic ones. And in my search, I wonder if we can draw on more Black and brown voices. James Baldwin wrote that the role of the artist is exactly the same role as the lover. If I love you, I have to make you conscious of the things you don't see. So I intend to play the role of the artist and the lover today. May we become conscious of the things we do not see. I have identified 5 more languages of love inspired by Black and brown voices, poets, and authors. They are as follows, and I promise I will expand on each of them. The first one is presence. What does presence mean? The second one, care. Care. The third is covenant. The fourth is justice. And the fifth, I call redemption. All right, presence. Presence being the first one, we heard so eloquently in the poem by Adrienne Marie Brown that love is in being present to this very moment and making a commitment to being love. She says, I breathe in, noticing the gift I too often take for granted, not knowing how many breaths I have left. I want to spend them being love. We mustn't take for granted the gift of breath and presence. It can be a priceless gift to another human being, something we cannot buy, something we cannot fix. It is listening, deep listening. The second one is care. Bell Hooks writes in her prolific book, All About Love, to truly love, we must learn to mix various ingredients, she says. Care, affection, recognition, respect, commitment, and trust, as well as honest and open communication. What a beautiful mix. So well-rounded. Care is the first and the essence of all the elements or ingredients. But what does care really mean? A friend of mine who does harm reduction work was telling a story of a man who was standing outside of her job smoking a cigarette. My friend was very late, but she could see that the man was in deep thought, and my friend stopped and said, "Hey man, how you doing?" The man looked up and said, "Thanks, I'm here." My friend laughed a little and said, "Well, that's something. I hope you have a great day." And they went on inside. A few weeks later, though, the same man stopped her on her way into work. She thought maybe he might need a light for his cigarette, but it was already lit. He said, "You know the other week when you stopped to say hello to me?" asked the man. "I was ready to end my life that day. And if you hadn't said hello, I don't know if you might be seeing me now." Care does not have to take the form of soup or a place to stay. Sometimes it begins with a kind hello or just a, "Hey man, how you doing?" Some congregations, including my own, participate annually in a hypothermia prevention project as an act of harm reduction. We cannot provide sustainable solutions, but we can provide some reduction to the harm of the environment to these souls who need shelter. Charles Hawthorne of the San Francisco AIDS Foundation says, Harm reduction is an expression of love and empathy for all who use drugs, who have sex, who engage in sex work, or do things that can result in harm. That means all of us, at different points in time, practice harm reduction as a way to take care of ourselves and the people we love. To echo bell hooks again, we mix the ingredients of true love: care, affection, recognition, respect, commitment, and trust, as well as honest and open communication. The third voice or language of love that I identified was covenant. Prentice Hemphill reminds us that boundaries are a loving practice. They write that boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. If I cannot love myself at the same time that I love you, or at the same level, there's an imbalance that will not sustain. Put another way, Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams, who's a Buddhist priest, writes, "Love is space. It is developing our own capacity for spaciousness within ourselves to allow others to be as they are. That is love. And that doesn't mean that we don't have hopes or wishes that things are changed or shifted, but that to come from a place of love is to be in acceptance of what is, even in the face of moving it towards something that is more whole, more just, more spacious for all of us." Some of you may be participating in small groups where you build covenant with one another as a group. You might decide on how you will be together, how you will create and hold space for one another. We have a covenant as a Unitarian Universalist congregation to affirm and promote our 8 principles, our 7 principles. I'm not sure if you've adopted the 8. We are a covenantal faith rather than a creedal faith. We do not say what we believe every week. We say that all are welcome. We allow others and ourselves to be as they are. It is not that we do not have expectations and hopes, but we operate from a place of love to create the most spaciousness for all. The fourth one, justice. Cornel West famously said, "Justice is what love looks like in public." Justice is a public witness opportunity for love. To label something as wrong, unjust, is love on a public scale. At my congregation, we have a teaching truth curriculum that has gone against Governor Youngkin's ban on critical race theory. We consider that to be love in public, teaching truth to our youth and children. Every 14th of the month, there's a public witness at the NRA. That is love in public. Our presence at the school board meetings for our LGBTQIA+ youth is love in public. And we know that love wins. Reverend Dr. William Barber encourages us, those of us who have history in the commonality of suffering from hate, we know that those who won the day are those who chose love in the midst of hate. And he expands upon that love. Love is not naive, not foolish. Love chooses to challenge lies, believe that hate doesn't have the final word, and stand nonviolently against the forces and systems of hate and destruction. Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams, the Buddhist priest, reminds us that love and justice are not two. Without inner change, there can be no outer change. And without collective change, no change matters. The fifth language or voice of love that I identified, I called redemption. It's not a word we often hear in UU spaces, but it resonated with me. James Baldwin wrote that love takes off the masks that we fear we cannot live without and know we cannot live within. I use the word love here not merely in the personal sense, but as a state of being or a state of grace. Not in the infantile American sense of being made happy, but in the tough and universal sense of quest and daring and growth. Like Reverend Dr. Barber, this love is no pithy thing. It is a deep sense of public witness. It removes the veil, the covering, the mask that we display when we don't know if we are enough. Love takes off that layer that we do not actually want to wear. We want to be seen for who we really are and loved for it. We want to be loved in a redemptive way. Like the man who was smoking a cigarette and had decided to take his own life, we want to be seen in spite of our masks and loved. A life-saving, redemptive love in the now. Alice Walker's words echo in my heart. Surely the earth can be saved by all the people who insist on love. And perhaps self-love should be the same redemptive nature, should take the same redemptive nature as the poet Rudy Francisco suggests. Perhaps we should love ourselves so fiercely that when others see us, they know exactly how it should be done. What if we could show people we are Unitarian Universalist by our love? I don't know if some of you might remember a song from your youth that could be modified. They will know we are UUs by our love, by our love. They will know we are UUs by our love. Walter Mosley inspires with his poetic phrasing. We are not trapped or locked up in these bones. No, we are free to change, and love changes us. And if we can love one another, we can break open the sky. So let us break open the sky with love. May it not be taken for granted. May it be infused with care, affection, recognition, respect, commitment, and trust, as well as honest and open communication. May we hold each other in loving covenant with loving boundaries. May it be professed in public, demonstrated, witnessed, and enacted as justice. May it be a redemptive practice for all. Blessed be, may it be so, and amen.
Would please remain standing for my favorite part of our services. As we extinguish our chalice, I invite you to join me now in our community blessing with the words of David Bumbaugh. As you can and as you would like, please reach out your hands to each other. I know it sounds silly, but if you're at home on Zoom, reach your hands out to the screen as we recite together. This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences and beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together, in spite of time, death, and the space between the stars. We pause now in silent witness to that unity.
Now that we've gathered together in this welcoming and inclusive spiritual home, let us go out into the world, nourished, rejuvenated, and inspired to share our values. Go in peace.